shield position. We covered the hand position last time. If your hand is in front of your chest, you got your elbow against your side, shield's going to be about here against a right-handed opponent. Boss is kind of pointing toward the shield, or the sword shoulder. Against a left-handed opponent, it's just going to cheat over about that much. The reason it's at this angle is I'm looking down both sides of the shield. I'm able to see over it and behind it. Some people prefer to shift this over and look all down the front, shift it over, look all down the back. Doing it this way really means your defense up in this quarter is dependent on your sword or a big movement. You're here. This cuts off a little bit more of your vision, but it can be limited. This really makes your blocks over here dependent on your sword. This is almost always going to be sword point up when you're doing this. Any of those can work, but I recommend the middle position because it's the most flexible. It gives you the best ability to respond in all directions, rather than kind of being preset to one extreme or the other. I also like to keep my balance a little more centered, and I believe it helps with that, but I could be wrong. And I try to keep this edge up high enough that if someone is attacking my face, they've got to get past it. If I flatten the shield like so, it's a lot easier to aim past that. Against the edge, it's a little trickier to work. It's still possible. People do get past it. But that three-dimensional obstacle, instead of what is basically a flat two-dimensional obstacle, is a lot tougher to pass up. I usually fight with my sword leg forward because with a round shield, this does not cover this leg all that well. I need to get a little bit lower, and it is a bit more limiting. Now let me try the oval. This has a little bit more in common with the kite that you have because it does have a point at the bottom. Also, it's a little narrower. You'll see that my arm right here is vulnerable with this shield. Even if I'm advancing it a little bit, and I'm still looking down it the same way, get an idea. But now I've got better cover over here, so I'm going to hang my sword a little bit further over most of the time. And I do have to watch out that that arm is exposed. If I shift this over more, I'm getting a little further from my leg. Keeping it in front actually does a better job of guarding the leg. If I shift leg leads, you can do either one. But this is about what this ought to look like in the mirror. And again, my sword guard for this is usually going to be a hanging guard with my arm cocked back. Not with my arm hanging out in front, just waiting to be chopped off, but drawn back. If I go with the round shield, and I take the same guard, it'll work, but I'm really leaning this much farther over when my vulnerability is much less there. So I'm usually going to be much closer to here, where instead of leaning it as far, a little further down, less of my arm is exposed, because now I don't have a top. And